Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air and Plumbing. And just moments away, KTAR's LaDona, Harvey, and ABC15's Nick Ciletti hosting our special Highlight on Housing. And you can catch it here on KTAR News 92.3 FM, KTAR.com, and on the KTAR YouTube channel. This KTAR News expansion is brought to you by Sweet James. If you've been injured in an accident, call Sweet James. And I'm Susan Monday on KTAR News.
KTAR News 92.3, the KTAR News app, and KTAR.com. A KTAR News and ABC15 special. Highlight on Housing.
Good afternoon. And good afternoon to you. I'm LaDona Harvey. All right, now the mic's on. Good afternoon. I'm LaDona Harvey, and I'm here along with Nick Ciletti from ABC15. We have a couple of goals here over the next couple of hours. Figure out how we got here in housing. How did we get where we are now? And the most important thing, can we get it fixed?
Yeah, we know that there's a lot of people, we've been listening to you, and really struggling in a lot of different ways. Maybe you're trying to get into the housing market. Maybe you're looking for a starter home. Maybe your rent is too high. Maybe you're struggling with different ways to help your family, help family members. There's a lot of people living in multi-generational households. There's a lot of different issues here that we want to try to tackle, but the goal here is to make this solutions-based because we know it is not easy out there.
It's not. And unfortunately, my microphone is not working right this second. So
Okay.
you're going to have to take this with us.
Okay, we are just having a couple technical issues, but LaDona is going to join us momentarily as soon as we get those fixed. Why don't we go ahead and get right into this if we can? We're going to have a series of experts, elected leaders, stakeholders with these issues over the next hour and 45 minutes. So thank you for tuning in. I want to get right into our first segment. I'm really excited for this one here. We've been talking you guys up, all right? Don't disappoint us. No, I know you won't. Okay, we have two really good experts who are tracking all of these trends. I want to introduce Glenn Farley, who's the director of the Common Sense Institute, and also Elliot Pollock, CEO of Elliot D. Pollock and Company. And gentlemen, both of you I know are, I mean, this is an understatement, but extremely well-researched when it comes to all sorts of housing trends that we are seeing right now that we've seen over the past few years. I want to just start with you, if I can, Glenn. If somebody asked you to describe the current state of the Valley housing market, what would you say?
Well, that's a great question, and I think that question, when it was asked to me a couple of years ago, prompted us at the Common Sense Institute to create what we call the Home Buyers Misery Index, and I think the one-word answer is miserable. But the Home Buyers Misery Index attempts to capture why and how miserable it is compared to historical averages simply by looking at the normalized sum of home prices and interest rates over time. And for the vast majority of buyers, a home purchase is a combination of how expensive is the home, but also how expensive is my mortgage going to be in terms of the interest rates. So we found an interesting thing, which is historically over time, the misery index was flat, as in conditions didn't get any more miserable even as home prices went up because interest rates went down. What's different about today is we have both high prices and high interest rates simultaneously, not getting better. That's never really happened before in the past, and it's made things especially miserable for home buyers today.
It's like a double whammy then, LaDona.
Well, it is. And, Elliot, you've been looking at the economic picture of the Valley forever. For decades, really. What is it that you've seen? What changes that you've seen make you think, okay, well, this is why this happened?
Well, there's a lot more regulation now than there was years ago. The commodities that go into a house have gone up. And so since 2000, housing prices have gone up almost 50%, while incomes have only gone up 30%. So talk about misery. Basically, historically, about 28% of your income should have gone for a house payment or rent. And now in Phoenix, it's in the 40s. Well, if you're spending that much on housing, there's not a lot left for other stuff. And so that's a very difficult situation. and also, when I was a kid, which basically was before there was radio, so you probably you know,
That is like a million years ago, man.
Back in the 70s, when
I
I
thought
bought
you
my
were 35.
yeah, when I bought my first house, basically, and all the way through the 80s, 90s, housing was roughly 3 times your annual income was the typical house. It's up to 5 times your annual income. So the cost of a house has gone up far faster than incomes. On top of that, as you pointed out, that the housing stock that first-time homebuyers usually buy from is existing housing, some inexpensive new housing, but generally it's getting on that first rung of the ladder, so you get in what becomes the American dream. And that is very, very difficult now because 63% of people out there have mortgages of 4% or less. So unless you're buying,
they wouldn't be going anywhere.
they're not going anywhere.
Right.
Unless
now.
it's a dire emergency, they're not going anywhere. And the other thing that's so strange, when I was a kid, the average age to get first-time home buyer was probably 31, 32. And it got into the 30s and higher 30s and then 40s. You know what it is today? 56 years. Last year, the average home buyer, new and existing, was 56 years old. And it's not because old guys decided, hey, it's time to buy a house. It's that they already had a house. They were already on that ladder, so that when they sold, they had the equity to buy another house, probably a trade-down house. But if you're in your 20s and 30s, you can't get on the ladder. And that is a dire situation for what has always been the American dream. And you hear about, younger people postponing the things that are basic to growing up. They're not postponing these things because they want to. They're postponing these things because they have to. And mainly the major one is housing.
Out of necessity, it sounds like.
Right. Glenn, let's talk a little bit about incomes because, Elliot, you just mentioned that incomes have not gone up concurrent with the prices. Why are incomes so, I don't know, for lack of a better term, depressed?
Well, that's an interesting phrasing it sort of implies that the problem is the rate of income increase. We've actually seen incomes rising much more quickly in the past couple of years than historical norms. The problem is that the cost of housing during the pandemic, and this really is in the bank, this is baked in, it's occurred in the past at this point, growing on medium-term to ancient past. It was 2020 to 2022 was the vast majority of the home price increase that Elliot talked about. We saw a 40% increase just in the span of those 2 years in the Phoenix metro area. Incomes are rising quickly since, but it takes many, many years to catch up with that kind of home price appreciation. The other interesting thing is prices aren't really going up in the Phoenix area anymore. It's basically been flat since 2022. What's changed since 2022 is the interest rates went up in response to rising inflation, rising federal deficits, things like that. The interest rates went up. They're staying elevated, but the prices didn't come down, and that's the shocking fact. A lot of folks, myself included, expected some sort of price correction in housing prices following the rising interest rates. We haven't seen that. We see both remaining stubbornly elevated, the prices and the interest rates, and that's what's rising. So I think the blame here doesn't lie necessarily with incomes per se, but more so with the housing market itself.
Yes, and again, the major reason, and I think we both agree on this, is lack of supply. We're not delivering enough new housing. There is a shortage of housing of all types, at all income levels, and of all varieties. And so you have to get to the point where it is more, municipalities are more friendly towards getting housing built. And it's, again, at all income levels, not just up here and not just down here, at all income levels, there's a shortage of housing. The only way to resolve this shortage of housing is to build more housing.
Right.
Yeah, and obviously that is an issue we will be getting into, too, with more of our guests. You had mentioned something, though, during our break. You were saying as a developer, it's taking longer to get things built, though, which I would imagine is also part of the issue.
Well, it is. Regulatory costs are going up. They represent a big chunk, probably a quarter of housing costs. And some are necessary, but some are not. When I had two businesses, I had an economic consulting business and a development business. And our job was to build lots for home builders. And what I've seen is that what used to take 6 months and then 9 months now takes any place between a year and a half to 2.5 years to get through the system.
Let me add, I tell you what, because I want to hold over on that topic. I'm really interested in regulation because I've seen it not just in this community, but in other communities where regulation upon regulation, suddenly that cost of housing goes up and up and up. The time it takes to build is wider. Are you seeing any good news? And we'll get back to that in just a moment. It's KTAR and ABC15's special highlight on housing. Nick Ciletti is with me. Thank you for covering there at the start.
LaDona.
Have no idea what my technical issue was, but we fixed it. We are going to be walking through valley prices, how they got so high so fast, and searching for answers on what can be done in a very solid way to bring those down. So we are talking with economist Elliot Pollack and Glenn Farley from the Common Sense Institute. At 12:45, let's talk to a politician. Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego, find out if there's an easy or maybe even a complicated answer to some of these questions. We'll be right back right here on KTAR News.
Dave Ramsey here. Give the outside of your home some greatly needed curb appeal with Rhino Shield permanent ceramic coating. Painting your home with traditional paint means you'll have to repaint every 4 or 5 years, costing you more and more money. But with Rhino Shield permanent ceramic coating, you won't have to touch the exterior again for years. In fact, Rhino Shield comes with a 25-year warranty. Your home will always look like it's been freshly painted, guaranteed. No kidding. So, if you're thinking about painting your exterior with traditional paint, please call Rhino Shield first for a free estimate and ask about their ceramic technology and its ability to reduce your cooling costs. Rhino Shield is perfect for the Arizona climate. Tell them Dave Ramsey sent you to receive 15% off the regular price. Call 855-487-4466 or visit rhinoshieldaz.com.
Outspoken with Bruce and Gatos.
Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs in studio with us. The Pennsylvania governor's mansion basically destroyed. Can you tell us a time in your political life you feared for your life?
When I was Secretary of State during the 2020 election, I had armed protesters outside of my house. I got death threats. We cannot normalize it. In a democracy, we settle our disagreements with free and fair elections.
Outspoken with Bruce and Gatos. This afternoon, 4 to 7. KTAR News 92.3 and the KTAR News app.
Opioid misuse and overdose deaths are serious health issues across the U.S. Anyone at a workplace, including workers, clients, customers, and visitors, can be at risk of an overdose if they use opioids. Are you prepared? Consider making non-prescription naloxone nasal spray a part of your workplace first aid kit. Naloxone reverses an opioid overdose and saves lives. Maintain workplace safety, offer training, and always call 911 for a suspected overdose. Visit naloxoneaz.com.
Is your better half moving on to greener pastures? Is brown just not your favorite color? Then join us Sunday mornings from 7 to 9 a.m. for the Whitfield Nursery Garden Show. Good tips, great smiles, and fun colors. Yes, that's you. Hi, this is Brian from Whitfield Nursery. That's me. Join me Sunday mornings from 7 to 9 a.m. We'll green up your garden, save your trees, chase off those pests, and save some water and just have fun. That's the Whitfield Nursery Garden Show, Sundays from 7 to 9 a.m. on KTAR.
It's Gatos, and there's only one person that loves our Connecticut system more than I do, and that's the Gatos Bride.
That would be me.
What is it about the Connecticut system that you love?
In addition to our glasses never being spotty and our towels being fluffy, it does so much for my skin and hair. You know, recently I became a flight attendant, and I'm flying all over the country, and you don't realize how important water is until you're showering constantly in hard water, which is very similar to the water we have here in Arizona. I've always been a fangirl of Connecticut water system. I can't wait to get home in the evenings and get into a bath and have that spa-like treatment of what Connecticut Systems does for me.
Aquazona is the exclusive authorized independent Connecticut dealer for Phoenix and Tucson. Visit aquazona.com or call your Connecticut dealer 602-910-6570. Connecticut water.
Very refreshing.
Such a blow to investors. Whether you're a big trader or whether you have a 401k.
Life can be complicated. Planning for retirement doesn't have to be.
So what we're looking at here is a plan and a strategy that guarantees the retirement income, but it doesn't give up that growth for safety.
Learn tips and tricks to help you move forward.
That's not always debt. And when you have the money to pay it all, it's called leveraging.
Tune in to The Parker Holland Show, Saturdays at 3 p.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. right here on KTAR News.
Hey, it's Mike Broomhead, and I need your attention. If you've been using GLP-1 medications to lose weight or you've been thinking about starting, now is the time to act. For a limited time, get $200 off your GLP-1 medication at Red Mountain Weight Loss. Their compound medications are in stock today. No shortages, no waiting, no hassle. Don't miss the opportunity to save. Book your appointment. Lock in your $200 savings before it's too late. Real doctors, real results at Red Mountain. RedMountainWeightLoss.com. That's RedMountainWeightLoss.com.
KTAR News now.
KTAR News Time 12:30. I'm Susan Monday, and here's our top story. The battle over the Starter Homes Act continues in the Arizona legislature as the search for how to address the state's affordable housing challenges continues as well. Governor Hobbs says the bill could be one part of a larger approach, which is already underway.
We have invested enough for 3,000 shovel-ready homes to be affordable housing to be built. Our mortgage assistance program, the Arizona's Home Program, has helped 500 families afford new homes.
And please join KTAR's LaDona Harvey and ABC 15's Nick Ciletti in progress right now for a 2-hour special called Highlight on Housing. One more day of high temperatures in the 90s before a cooler weekend arrives.
By tomorrow, looking at high temperatures only in the upper 70s to lower 80s, and that'll continue for the remainder of the week.
And meteorologist Mark O'Malley says more normal temperatures should return to start the new week. Some concerns about regulations requiring Canadian visitors to register and get fingerprinted will harm Arizona's economy. More than 820,000 Canadians visited Arizona in 2023, according to the state's Office of Tourism. Meanwhile, scheduled flight bookings from Canada to the U.S. are down 70% compared to this time last year. And now for a check on traffic from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. One crash to watch out for in Phoenix on 12th Street and Highland Avenue. This traffic report brought to you by Blue Sky Pest Control. Worried about scorpions? Blue Sky Pest Control gets results. Call 602-BLUE-SKY. Hello, Blue Sky. Goodbye, scorpions. And now for a check of your KTAR weather. Sunny skies today, high 91. Clear skies tonight, low 62. Right now, 86 degrees in Glendale. Weather brought to you by Howard Air and Plumbing. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air and Plumbing. And I'm Susan Monday on Arizona's news station, KTAR News.
KTAR News 92.3, the KTAR News app, and KTAR.com. A KTAR News and ABC15 special. Highlight on housing.
And in the next hour and a half now, we are trying to get to the bottom of not just high home prices and high rents and a lack of affordability in a town that used to be known for having such a great cost of living and where nice homes were affordable to almost everyone. I'm LaDona Harvey.
And I'm Nick Ciletti. LaDona's right. Not only do we want to find out, what the heck has happened over the past few decades, but we also want to find solutions and hopefully give you some hope right now if maybe you're one of those people that's hoping to get into the market right now. I want to just quickly reintroduce our guests. We have Glenn Farley, the director of the Common Sense Institute, and we also have Elliot Pollack, CEO of Elliot D. Pollack and Company. Elliot, I want to pick back up with you because when we were last joined with you guys, we were talking about some of the regulations that could be maybe slowing things down, maybe causing some of those prices to go up. So give us an overview of that and maybe what some solutions could be.
Well, there are a lot of, first of all, I guess I'll be blunt. The problem with a lot of cities is their planning departments are full of guys who got their degrees at schools of architecture or schools of liberal arts, but not schools of business. So not only don't they have a clue as to what they're doing, how it affects the market and the end user, the homeowner, they don't care, okay? And so there's no balance in terms of do we really need this regulation or will the marketplace take care of it? There's a combination of both. And I can't tell you which regulations are necessary and which regulations are not, but nobody's looking at that. That's the first place I'd look. Secondly, politically, every time somebody builds an apartment, the only guy who shows up in favor of it is the developer himself. Whereas there'll be 100 NIMBYs. We don't want this apartment, blah, blah. We want,
right.
And it's hard to believe in 2025, you hear this, we don't want those people. It's ridiculous. How many of you did not live in an apartment at one time or another in your life? Everybody did, either when you were in college, when you first started in business, when you first started to work. Somewhere in your life, most people, I'd say 98% of people in this country live in an apartment, and you were one of those people. How do you like that think about that now? It's a normal part of life. And in addition, right now, we are being Californiized in some way, and that is, if you look at the percentage of people who live in a home, which is usually 2/3 of the people, versus live in an apartment, which is about 1/3, in California, that's almost reversed.
Right.
Because it's so expensive there. And by the way, it's hard to believe, but most of the people who move here from places that are much more expensive.
Sure. Yeah.
Basically the coasts, Denver, even Salt Lake. And I used to tell people, Fargo, North Dakota has cheaper housing, but that doesn't matter because nobody wants to live in Fargo, North Dakota.
It's cold, Elliot. Yeah. It's cold.
Yeah, and but of the places that we compete with, we're still in okay shape. But what's going to happen is we're going to see this shift to more people not being able to afford single-family housing. That is not good. It doesn't get people on the rung to the American dream. And part of the American dream is owning a home, because if you don't own a home, over your lifetime, you don't build up this equity in your home as prices rise and you pay down your mortgage, so you don't have the money to send your kids to school or to go on vacations or to build up money for retirement. That's all part of the American dream, and it's being attacked by higher prices. Regulation is only one of the causes, not all the cause. And a lot of politicians are simply under a lot of pressure from the constituents that they represent. It's a very difficult situation. It's not easy.
Well, Glenn, let's talk about, because you take a look at the Valley as a whole and also sort of individual cities and areas. The picture is not all Paradise Valley sort of price hikes all across the Valley. So where are some of the places that if somebody was going to get into that home that you would say, you know what, take a look here?
Yeah, no, thank you. And it's a great point. It's fair to say that there are multiple inputs into the cost of housing. Zoning, permitting, and other regulatory issues are not the entirety, but it's also fair to say that if these other things were the proximate drivers, the main drivers, we wouldn't necessarily expect to see the sort of discrepancies that we are seeing. But even within the Valley, everyone's facing the same constraints, sort of the cost of labor, the cost of supplies, but we see disparate choices about where we're building and how expensive the properties are that are being built. So let's talk about sort of the urban core, the large, old, established cities. These are your Phoenixes, your Scottsdales, your Paradise Valleys, your Mesas even. That's how fast the Valley is shifting. Mesa is now maybe more of a legacy city than a new city, but these are places that are large, have large populations, but they are not building. It is relatively difficult to get a permit to build. When you do get a permit, it requires certain lot sizes, certain luxury accoutrements like garages and things like that push up the cost of the housing that is getting built. Where are we building? In younger, smaller cities, in what I'll call the exurbs, the peripheries, the Buckeyes, the Queen Creeks, the Avondales. You're seeing lots of permits being issued in these jurisdictions for housing that is relatively smaller, relatively more affordable. Elliot alluded to this, but it's a point worth repeating. Once upon a time, you could build high-end, expensive housing and rely on the existing housing stock to fill your first-time home buyer niche. That reality no longer exists. The existing stock has dried up. We went from 1 in 5 homes on the market being new construction before the pandemic to half of homes on the market being new construction after the pandemic. We need new construction to fill the niche of affordable first-time homebuyer housing. You can't have these sorts of requirements of large lot sizes, large setbacks, enclosed garages, et cetera, and affordability. Something has to give. The construction is going to the jurisdictions that will let that give, and that's largely occurring outside the urban core.
Well, and Elliot, you mentioned something really interesting in the break. It's, when you look at perhaps lawmakers, the Starter Homes Act, et cetera, that is for one small segment of the population, but everybody needs housing.
When you think of affordable housing, some people say affordable housing, and they mean just this segment of the market, the bottom quintile of the population that really is having problems. But affordability problems is at all price levels, at all housing types, and at all income levels. So this is not just a lower income problem. This is a middle income and an upper middle income problem. If you're in the you're a rich guy, yeah, you're going to buy a somewhat smaller house, so what? But it's the people in the middle. And we did a study on affordability of essential workers. And it used to be that if you worked in a city, you used to be able to buy a single family home there. In a lot of cities, an essential worker on his salary, a policeman, a fireman, the chef, certainly the guy who works at the 7-Eleven, the retail worker, they can't even afford a 2-bedroom apartment. They can maybe afford a 1-bedroom apartment in a lot of the cities. It's not healthy, and that's the thing that bothers me. It's the city councils again have to be take a longer view of getting people back on the ladder, getting them in what leads to an American dream, getting them to a situation where they can get married and they can have families and they can do all the things that are the accoutrements of getting older. It's difficult unless you are in the housing market.
Yeah, and I'll bring you back in here, Glenn. You at the Common Sense Institute, I know every quarter you're releasing different findings and whatnot. I was reading your Q4 report and also some of your more long-range things. I was so fascinated by you guys sort of breaking down how long it would take to fix certain issues, and you map out, which I think is really cool, how long it would take to maybe have enough housing there to make sure the inventory is up to where it's supposed to be. What are some big takeaways, or what were some things that maybe intrigued you or surprised you even?
Yeah, absolutely. High level, Arizona has a housing shortfall. This comes as a surprise to no one, but we looked at, given the current pace of development, how long would it take Arizona to close its housing gap? The answer to that is 13 years. So across the state, at current rates of building, it takes 13 years. That sounds bad, but actually that's not that bad. You look more granular at specific counties or specific cities, we see tremendous variation. And again, zooming in to those jurisdictions that are most reluctant to permit new construction, many of these jurisdictions will never close their deficits given projected population growth. These are places like Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, places that you mentioned,
Right.
LaDona. Other jurisdictions, the places that I mentioned, these more periphery cities, we're talking to places like Buckeye, Queen Creek, Avondale, are on track to close their shortfalls, which are very small to begin with, but their existing shortfalls relatively quickly. Is it a surprise then that when you look at population growth figures, which cities in the valley are growing? The small, historically small, periphery cities, 45 minutes outside the urban core, the Buckeyes, the Queen Creeks, and Avondales. People go where they can, not necessarily where they want to be, but where they can be. And if those are the only places that are going to open the doors to development and allow people to come at an affordable price point, that's where they're going to go. So I think long-term, these inner core cities are likely to regret some of these choices, even if in the short term they believe it protects sort of the environment or the nature of the neighborhoods. And I do have to that point, if I could very briefly, which is there is, I think, a concern that permitting development is permitting necessarily sort of a lot of high density housing, apartments, condos, things like that, that if we relax some of these restrictions, that is what we'll get. Certainly we'll get some of that, but in reality, most people want a traditional single-family suburban neighborhood environment. It's what people want. The market will tend to give what people want. So if you allow developers to develop, that's what they will build. They will build single-family housing in a suburban-looking environment. It may be smaller. The yards may be smaller than they were in the past. The houses may be smaller, fewer luxury features, but that's what they will try to provide because that's what people want. So I think in many ways this fear is misplaced or overblown. I think if you allow this development, it won't change the character of neighborhoods as much as some people might suspect.
I think there is a fear that there would be a huge apartment block in a single-family home neighborhood. And,
We're not talking about doing away with zoning.
Right.
What we are saying is, I think we're on the same page here, let the marketplace decide.
Sure.
Don't let some bureaucrat decide because the bureaucrat has no idea what people want. The great thing about America is everybody goes out every day and votes with these green pieces of paper. And based on where they vote with those green pieces of paper, stuff is made, stuff is not made. Some companies thrive. Some companies go out of business. Their assets are reallocated. give the market a chance. Right now, the market is being stifled not only by high interest rates, but by regulation and zoning ordinances. But give the market more of a chance. I think there are certain cities, Maricopa, Buckeye, they're more market driven, and see what happens. You know what's going to happen? The market will get where people take those green pieces of paper and vote with them.
And hopefully more of them than they had just a couple years ago.
Right.
In just a few moments, Nick and I are going to have a one-on-one with Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego as we look for those solutions. We'll talk about regulation. What does she see as a person who is in charge of a very large city that is very squeezed for housing? And that it's such a thrill to be looking for answers that are to the positive, because I don't think it's all bleak. I think there are things that we can do, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to be solutions-based. We don't want to be all doom and gloom. There is hope, and that's what this conversation is, to talk about how you can achieve that dream.
Thank you for staying with us on our KTAR and ABC15 special highlight on housing. It is 12:45.
The America First Credit Union Charitable Foundation supports communities through 4 pillars: community first, education first, kids first, and service first. These impactful programs address food insecurity, clothing needs, and educational resources. Join them for the 3rd annual Diaper Drive from April 1st to May 31st, 2025, helping over 15,000 families. Their employees volunteer thousands of hours annually, embodying their people helping people mission. To learn more, go to americafirst.com.
Has your roof been inspected lately? Dave Ramsey here to tell you about Trevec Roofing. These are the same folks I've been telling you about for years for home remodel, and now they're going back to their roots with an entire department dedicated to roofing. Don't be the person with a bucket in your living room because you waited until after the big storm to have your roof looked at. If your tile roof is 15 years old, you need to have a professional inspection of the underlayment before it leaks. Foam roofs need to be inspected every 5 years at a minimum to ensure the sun hasn't eaten away the coating. Call our friends at Trevec Roofing today at 480-367-1171 to schedule your roof inspection. That's 480-367-1171 or Trevec.com. Don't get caught in the rain by quick fixes. Let Trevec Roofing be your roofing expert and get the job done right the first time. Hashtag Red Trucks.
Hi, I'm Stuart Willis, president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax. Will your investments last throughout retirement? Do you have a retirement strategy to minimize your long-term taxes? If not, tune into Arizona's own Asset Preservation Hour right here on KTAR Sundays at 2 p.m. What should you do about the current economic conditions? Stay informed and stay tuned into the Asset Preservation Hour Sundays at 2 p.m. on KTAR.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor.
Hi, I'm Sherry Harris, owner of LifeSource Water. Arizona's desert water is some of the harshest in the country. It's tough on your skin, your hair, and your home. Some people turn to old-fashioned softeners, but there's a better way. With LifeSource, you get clean, conditioned, and healthy water from every tap. No salt, no regular maintenance, and no plastic. Just fresh filtered water that protects your family and your appliances. So call 1-800-WATER-99 or visit LifeSourceWater.com. LifeSource. Taste and feel the difference.
Warranty limitations apply. A KTAR News and ABC15 special. Highlight on housing.
And good afternoon. My name is LaDona Harvey. I work on Arizona's Morning News, and we grabbed Nick Ciletti from down the street and from ABC15 and made him come in here and play with us, too. This is our exclusive KTAR and ABC15 highlight on housing. And, you know, we just talked to 2 people who really understand the economic picture of the valley, the entire valley, and we're able to break down some interesting things for us. And we have Mayor Kate Gallego coming into the conversation as well, because this is an issue that I'm sure that you've dealt with.
It
Housing.
is absolutely top of mind for our residents. We want everyone to have a safe place to call home.
Yeah. So, Mayor, let's get into it and talk about it. When you're talking to residents, people who live throughout the city, what are the main issues that you're hearing from folks?
Certainly, cost of living is really important to our residents. Our residents also love Phoenix, and they want us to have a wide variety of housing. We're unique from most big American cities in that we have a dense downtown with condos and apartments, but also some historic neighborhoods. We have some larger lot. We have small density and big. And people love that Phoenix has a diversity, so it's our challenge to make sure we can have exciting, unique neighborhoods and the demand for housing, particularly affordable housing for our residents.
So, and one of the things that our economists were talking about, they said, affordable housing is not just affordable to a segment of the population. Everybody needs affordable housing. And we're seeing kind of the middle get squeezed out. If you have a lot of money, you can afford to pay a little more for a house that's maybe a little less than you want. If you have programs that are available to you as somebody who's lower income, you've got a little bit of support. And the middle income person is kind of left out there flying in the breeze with no assistance and also, no money because their paycheck hasn't kept up with the cost of housing.
It really is a priority to make sure folks can afford a good place to call home. I'm a parent. My kiddo does not want to share a bedroom with me, right? You want multiple bedrooms if you have a bigger family. And we're really trying to change and have more variety. When the city was involved with building housing decades ago, we would build pretty tiny, small apartments. Now we're trying to, a family could be 5 kids or grandma lives with you, and really trying to get more variety in there, which is exciting. We're also trying to build products that will make sense for people across multiple incomes and diverse. Our probably most excitement right now is about a new affordable housing project we're launching at 7th Avenue in Washington. Folks who've lived here for a while will know our police headquarters has been in that area. It is going to be moving to a different building, and we'll have a chance to build a new gateway for downtown. And what we've said at the City of Phoenix is we want affordable housing to be a big part of that gateway. So that's something we're in the idea phase right now. As you come into our downtown from the south and west, we definitely have decided we want affordable housing, but what else we want to see there? We want to talk to the community now. And so that was one of the things I really wanted to ask folks today. So many people love our downtown, but as we build affordable housing, what do you want to see as part of that project and in addition to that project?
Yeah.
It could be hundreds and hundreds of great units on top of the thousands and thousands we have already been building.
Sure. And as someone who's now lived here for 11 years, I mean, even in that decade, downtown, my goodness, has changed and just grown and flourished so much. Mayor Gallego, you did talk about this a little bit, but what I would like to know is, what do you think the city's role is when it comes to trying to get more affordable housing? Because I know it's a partnership, right? But what do you think the city's role is with this?
So I'm in a little bit of a reflective mood because I'm going to be inaugurated on Monday for 4 more years. And my first big initiative I really rolled out was the Housing Phoenix Plan, which was to create or preserve 50,000 units. We had set a goal of 2030, and we have already reached it, which was really exciting for us. We've had amazing support. Our voters approved tens of millions of dollars in bonds to do affordable housing, and we've had great partnerships with nonprofits that have helped us stretch dollars further. So we've been really excited about that. Some of the most visible projects you would see is Edison East Lake Public Housing right by the airport, where we had pretty obsolete units with no air conditioning.
Oh.
Yeah. And now we have much larger units with air conditioning and views of Camelback Mountain. And these are affordable housing projects. Some of the units are as many as 5 bedrooms. So we're really building for today's family, and we want to keep that momentum going. We've tried to make it easier to put backyard casitas at your house. We've tried to make it easier to finance, and we have different tools, including helping folks like teachers get a down payment assistance. We've done a community land trust, which can help buy down the cost of land so you can put all your dollars into the actual house and get more bang for your buck. So we really want to partner with our residents to make housing in this community accessible and affordable.
So let's talk about the middle income people. And I know I keep coming back to that because this is a problem that, as I mentioned, spans basically all income levels. And when you are looking at zoning regulations and things like that, what are you doing to help those middle class people who maybe they do have a family, they want to get into a home, their salary should cover it, and yet, for some reason, it's not because the prices have gone up?
So we have wonderful tools in the city of Phoenix. We can do duplexes and triplexes, and we've really tried to make it easier for what we call infill, so building houses in the middle of existing communities. We have financing tools, including to help maybe with a gap in financing on the project side. I also mentioned earlier, but maybe our most popular is down payment assistance.
Sure.
Right? That is a beloved program, and we're really trying to help firefighters, teachers, folks who serve our community, live in the community. We have also looked at all the city-owned land and put that forward for affordable housing, and it's in some pretty exciting sites like the Washington corridor between downtown and the airport. So really, desirable places to live. We'll have another one at 19th Avenue in Montebello near Great Shopping, and that's an exciting tool we have. We could use that land for a variety of different areas, but as I mentioned, with the gateway to downtown, affordable housing is such our priority at the city.
Right.
We have a few minutes left, but obviously we know Phoenix has experienced exponential growth, especially over the past decade. How do you, as mayor and leader of the city, balance the need for growth, but then doing it responsibly and making sure that the city is taking into account all needs and, just making sure that it's in a methodical way? How do you balance all of that? Because obviously we need the housing now, but how does that all work out?
So our voters help us with that. We do a long-term plan, and ours just passed with 79% approval, which is, you guys follow politics, that's pretty impressive.
Wow, that's
but we
unheard of.
try to lay out as we grow and develop, we need new fire stations, we need new water infrastructure, and we really try to plan it all together so that we can meet the needs of our existing residents. As you well know, Nick, water's a real priority for me. I'm very committed to that. We have a 100-year water supply for anyone coming into Phoenix before we break ground. And so we're working very hard to invest in things like water recycling so that we have a stronger water supply. We've invested in a lot of infrastructure to make sure that we have multiple different water supplies so we can grow as there's challenges, particularly on the Colorado River. If you drove along the 51 freeway, there's a big pipeline. People were asking what that's about. That's making sure if the Colorado River water has some challenges that we can still have new water or get water supplies to all parts of our city. So hopefully you don't ever have to think about our water and sewer, but you should want elected officials who will worry about that, because in the desert, water is closely connected to housing.
Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego with us here on KTAR and ABC15's special highlight on housing. We appreciate the time. It's great to have a lens kind of looking into a very, very specific area of the valley and the things that are being done to help people get into that home or get into an apartment that is a little more affordable, but also maintains the beauty of some of our neighborhoods, which are, let's face it, we live in a gorgeous place.
Absolutely. I mean, gosh, I think about the Encanto neighborhood. I mean, so many things. Also, I think Mayor Gallego just gave us the next topic for our roundtable, water. I'm just going to put that out there. Water use. I think we could do a whole roundtable discussion on water.
Well, we are all very, very thirsty. We are very thirsty. So it's great to keep that in mind. And also, Mayor, I know that you have a lot of things that are going on because you are getting ready for your inauguration and for another 4 years. When you look ahead at Phoenix and you say to yourself, this is what I want for residents when it comes to housing, some place for people to go, what is the most important to you personally?
I want to make sure we have a diverse city that meets everyone's needs. For some people, the exciting urban environment of downtown makes sense, but maybe if you're at a different phase in life, you need housing where you can age, that's accessible for a wheelchair. And we want all of that to be available in the city of Phoenix. One of the things I love about cities is that they're diverse. And so you want people from all different income levels and backgrounds to be able to find a great place to call home. We don't want every part of the city to be the same, but we want you to be able to find your place in Phoenix.
When you look at regulatory issues, how are you paving the way to get those diverse things happening?
We're really trying to be intentional about putting a lot of housing along transportation infrastructure, because we also, as we make these investments, don't want your commute to get worse. So if we put where you can have a better commute, that can be very helpful. So you're seeing a lot of apartments and condos along our light rail system and freeway system. And then that can really help us get that density. But we also know that that housing style is not for everyone. And we now have a diverse single-family rent-to-own, which is not a product you see everywhere in the community, but might make sense. for most of us, home ownership is the goal. For most people in Phoenix, that's where your wealth is in your home. And so we want to make sure we have policies where our residents can own homes and not out-of-state investors, although they're doing very well in the city of Phoenix. But that's why we've invested in things like down payment assistance and the Community Land Trust. And it's so fun to meet people where you've helped them get the keys to their house. Those are the good days. Like I wish you all would get to see the people who get keys to houses in partnership with the city of Phoenix, because it is fabulous.
Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego, you're listening to KTAR at ABC15 special highlight on housing. Next hour, we're talking with data analyst Garrett Archer, Jackson Mole, the Home Builders Association. We're talking to Buckeyes Mayor. We're getting more answers as to how we can get housing that works for us in Phoenix, right here on KTAR.
Hi, it's Bruce St. James, and if you're like me, you might have a loved one who needs to move into a senior living facility, whether it's independent living, assisted living, or even memory care. This can be a challenging decision, and finding the best advice isn't easy. That's where my friend Allison comes in. She's with A Place for Seniors. So how does A Place for Seniors work?
Well, Bruce, A Place for Seniors is a group of advisors that help you navigate the senior living industry in all aspects. Not only do we help you find a place, but we also have resources that can help you with all different situations that you have.
And I think here's maybe the best part, Allison. The service is completely free, not only for seniors, but for their families?
For all my seniors and their families, we're a completely free service.
I've been in this situation with my mom, and I know how hard it is to find a place she'll love and thrive. Allison and A Place for Seniors will guide you to make the best experience for your loved one. Call Allison direct at 480-418-5033 or check them out online at aplaceforseniors.org.
With a home equity investment from HomeTap, you get access to your home equity in cash without monthly payments to use for whatever you'd like. From paying off debt to making renovations or handling emergency expenses. Receive your funds in just a few weeks. Start pursuing your financial goals and start getting more out of life. See if you pre-qualify for an investment at hometap.com. Subject to eligibility. Terms and conditions apply. That's hometap.com.
Still waiting to say yes to a new pool? Right now is a great time to say yes to Dolphin Pools. Beat the heat and enjoy your own custom pool this summer. With over 40 years of experience, let Dolphin Pools help you create a complete backyard paradise. From beautiful landscaping and lighting to outdoor kitchens and more, Dolphin Pools is your one-stop shop. Choose Dolphin Pools for reliability, experience, and expertise. Dive into fun and relaxation with your own custom pool this summer. Visit dolphinpools.us. That's dolphinpools.us.
KTAR-FM, Glendale, Phoenix. KTAR News now.
It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Susan Monday.
Highlight on housing.
The Arizona legislature continues to tussle over the proposed Starter Homes Act, which is aimed at building more lower-cost homes across the state. Governor Hobbs tells Outspoken with Bruce and Gatos housing is an issue that requires a multi-front approach.
So there are lots of solutions. They can't all be done by the state. And certainly, we didn't get to this place overnight. We're not going to solve it overnight.
Our special highlight on housing with KTAR's LaDona Harvey and ABC15 Nick Ciletti continues after the news. We'll see a little bit of a cool down arrive in the valley tomorrow with high temps expected to top out near 80 degrees through the weekend.
And those temperatures are around 5 to 8 degrees below the normal for this time of year.
National Weather Service meteorologist Mark O'Malley says by next week, though, we should see much more seasonal temperatures. All right, let's take a look at the numbers on Wall Street today. The Dow closed down at 699 points, the S&P down 120 points, and the NASDAQ closed down 516 points. For more money news, visit the Business Center at KTAR.com. And now for a check on traffic, live from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. A couple crashes to watch out for in Chandler, Kingbird Place and McQueen Road. In Phoenix, 12th Street and Highland Avenue. Also, another crash at 91st Avenue and Indian School Road. Your traffic report brought to you by AMCO Transmissions and Total Car Care. Most people know AMCO as transmission specialist, but same as the dealership, AMCO is your total car care expert. Find your fix at one of over 20 Valley AMCO locations today. Your KTAR weather for the Valley. Sunshine for the rest of today, high 93, and then clear skies for tonight, low 63. Right now, 85 degrees in Fountain Hills. Weather brought to you by Howard Air and Plumbing. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air and Plumbing. And I'm Susan Monday on Arizona's news station, KTAR News.
KTAR News 92.3, the KTAR News app, and KTAR.com. A KTAR News and ABC15 special. Highlight on housing.
My name is LaDona Harvey, and I'm here along with Nick Ciletti from ABC15. And a couple of goals here in the 2 hours, now 1 hour allotted to us, is figure out how we got to where housing prices have become so unaffordable for a lot of people in the Valley. Where we are now, the most important thing, though, is can it be fixed?
Yeah, right, because obviously we want to get you solutions. We're listening to you. We get it. We know it is very stressful. There's a lot of anxiety around the housing market, really across Arizona, rentals as well. So we want to help you along the way, achieve that American dream. Whatever your goal is, we want you to know that there are some solutions, and that's what we're here to do, bring in the experts and stakeholders to try to talk about it.
And one of those experts is data analyst Garrett Archer. And Garrett, if you could, give us the big picture of where housing in the Valley stands today and where it all went sideways for us.
Sure. Today, we are a pretty soft market. The median priced house is about $450,000. Trend-wise, that's quite high from where we used to be. I would say prior to 2019, 2021, we were a very affordable market with houses priced around from $270,000 at around the turn. It was really it was the super bubble of 2021, the COVID-19 super bubble that really changed everything because home values at that moment increased from about $270,000 to about $470,000. So they increased about $200,000. That's the median home price just in the span of a year. And at that point, people's incomes just could not keep up, and it just became unaffordable for the general populace to buy a house here.
Explain the super bubble, though, and was that just cash money coming in from other places?
So again, we were a very affordable market in 2019 and 2020. So fast forward to COVID-19 when a lot of industries, especially high-paying industries, went to remote work. I'm talking places, especially our proximity to Los Angeles and San Francisco. A lot of buyers from those areas took advantage of the equity that they had in those houses and came to markets like all around the country, but we'll just focus on places like Phoenix and Las Vegas, where they came in with so much more resources than the general buyer here.
A lot of
cash.
So
if anybody sold a house during 2021, 2022, I'm sure they remember that they would put it on the market. Within 24 hours, they'd have 30 offers, and all of them would be above asking price. And that's sort of what drove the market into this inflated super bubble until we got to the interest rates. As soon as the interest rates started to climb, it just became completely unaffordable to get a house. The average mortgage, the median mortgage went from, I think, around $1,080 or something to $2,100. Again, in the span of a year. That's the big thing to remember. It was the shock to the system that we're still dealing with today.
And Garrett, what I love about you is you're a numbers guy, right? And you're always giving us the story behind the data here. And one of the things, you did touch on this a little bit, but you talked about wages as well. And I believe you do have some data about wages.
Yeah.
So break down, where's the correlation here with that?
Yes, so wages. The median income in the Valley today is about $90,000. That's the median household income according to projections from the census, about $90,000, right? That's grown about 75% in the last 13, 12 years. That's pretty good, right? And in fact, when you index that to home values and the growth of home values, they pretty much stayed in line. So let me just back up for 1 second here. When you're looking to buy a home, they have what's called a price to earnings ratio, which people like to say, okay, as long as your as long as your mortgage stays within about 25 to 28% of what you earn gross, you're okay. That is considered affordable, right? So prior to that, median incomes, home values, they're growing at about the same rate. That price to earnings ratio is staying at around the 20 to 25% range. And again, come to 2021, and the amount that you needed to buy a house then just shoots up. And today, the amount sort of recommended to the amount of salary recommended to buy a median house is $112,000. And again, we're only at $90,000. So there is now an imbalance between the median salary and what is recommended. And if you look at the math around that, I know we have a camera here, so I'll just show this, this graphic. You can't see it if you're on the radio, but this is my handy graphic that shows how home values and salaries sort of kept in line until the super bubble, and they don't reach equilibrium again until 8 years from now. So in 8 years, if salary growth continues the way it is and home values don't change, then we'll be at equilibrium where it will be affordable for the median buyer to get a house here again.
When you talk about 2020, the super bubble, 2019 to 2021, sort of in that area, bubbles have a bad tendency of getting popped.
Yeah, and that is one of the concerns that is obviously. That is a huge concern for the entire economy because so much of the economy is built on real estate. And obviously we saw what happened in 2008 to 2012. Now, so there's obviously some analysis going on sort of what we'll call the canary in the coal mine markets. A lot of those happen to be in Florida just because of the type of real estate that exists in Florida. And what we're seeing right now is that only I want to say Fort Myers is the one market that's showing.
I used to live there. That's where I moved from. Yeah.
Fort Myers is the one market showing real weakness, right? Like it's. I think home values are down 7 or 8% in just the last couple of years. Now, other markets are doing exactly what we're doing, where they hit a peak of the bubble at around 2023, and then they dropped, and that was the time when people were concerned. Oh, it's going to stop, and then they just stagnated, and so now we're in the stagnant period from 2023 on, where home values are just not really changing at anywhere the rate that we used to expect them to change.
What do you say, from your perspective, as you've crunched all of these numbers, what are the best things that we can do as voters, as people who live in Phoenix, to try to mitigate some of the damage of these high prices? What are the best areas where we should consider building? What should we be building? And how do we make this more affordable for people who work and they have full-time jobs, they have careers, they should be able to buy a home?
We are seeing a little about what I'm going to say here. So obviously, one of the things that has caused the situation we're in is Americans, I am also guilty of this, are addicted to large square footage houses, right? So you want to get the largest house you can. So home builders start, if you look at the chart of the average square footage of a home built since 1980, it has just gone from like 800 square feet to somewhere in the, I think it's like 2,000 square feet or something.
Which seems reasonable, quite frankly.
It does, exactly. No, exactly right. But the thing is that we have seen it started to moderate a little bit. That average square footage house is starting to go down because really, it's going to take, I think, as far as the data is concerned, you're going to have to see sort of that size of the house go down a little bit more, and just that will help keep prices where they are as far as the value, not the prices, but the value of the home. Because again, people do not want to. The market is fighting to keep its value the way it is. It doesn't want to see what happened in 2009, 2010, where the market just plummeted. So the only real other solution is to just simply have a footprint that's smaller. And so you can basically have the same value, but just at a smaller price point.
I was going to ask, well, first of all, you have 2 kids, so I understand the space. I get that. No judgment at all. We have about a minute or so left, but I was going to ask you, what would you say to someone who maybe is on the sidelines right now and is thinking, maybe I could, but I'm worried about prices? Should they stay on the sidelines, or should they try to enter maybe something smaller like you suggested?
I mean, all I can say is that interest rates are likely to stay pretty much where they are for the foreseeable future. And there's really nothing in the horizon showing that home values are going to start coming down dramatically. So we're sort of in this lockstep that seems like it's going to stick around for at least another couple of years. So if you're on the sidelines, you're going to have to, make an adjustment somewhere to make it affordable, because the house is probably not going to go that much down in value.
The information, I almost feel like it's just an avalanche, and I'm trying to piece it all together. But what I'm getting from you is get in.
Yeah, I mean, it's it is what it is right now, I guess. Is the data shows that we are where we are going to be.
Well,
so
and we're not all going to I'm not getting into a mansion,
Yeah.
We're all not going to have that, but we can still have that real, real
it does
property.
and there is, again, some indication that home builders are building houses that are a little bit more moderate in size. I'm not talking, 600 square foot. We're not New York. We're not going to see a lot of 600 square houses here, but, going down to the 1,200 square foot range for new builds, because new builds do really drive the market value. You kind of see the new builds, they sort of are on the leading edge. So if they're moderating in size, the values are staying around the same, it should sort of make that affordability quotient go back into that 20 to 25% range.
You are listening to KTAR and ABC15 special highlight on housing. We have been talking with data analyst Garrett Archer, and we still have a lot more to come, including with two sides of the Arizona Starter Homes Act, two very different perspectives. That's on the way. I'm sitting here with Nick Ciletti, and I don't want to forget about you. You are awesome, and we will be back.
Summer is here, so keep your home cool with beautiful new energy-efficient windows and doors from my friends at Window World. You see, Window World provides solar zone sun shield glass with a 0.14 SHGC rating. That's just window nerd talk for windows that keep the heat outside where it belongs. So call Window World today for a new high-quality window with no tricky sales tactics like buy one, get one, or must buy now. At Window World, you receive an all-in-one price that includes tax, professional installation, up front. Plus, every energy-efficient replacement window and door is custom-made for your home. So see for yourself why over half of all new Window World customers come from happy referrals. Schedule a free in-home estimate today at windowworldphoenix.com. That's windowworldphoenix.com. Window World, simply the best for less. Dave Ramsey here. Give the outside of your home some greatly needed curb appeal with Rhino Shield permanent ceramic coating. Painting your home with traditional paint means you'll have to repaint every 4 or 5 years, costing you more and more money. But with Rhino Shield permanent ceramic coating, you won't have to touch the exterior again for years. In fact, Rhino Shield comes with a 25-year warranty. Your home will always look like it's been freshly painted, guaranteed. No kidding. So, if you're thinking about painting your exterior with traditional paint, please call Rhino Shield first for a free estimate and ask about their ceramic technology and its ability to reduce your cooling costs. Rhino Shield is perfect for the Arizona climate. Tell them Dave Ramsey sent you to receive 15% off the regular price. Call 855-487-4466 or visit rhinoshieldaz.com.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are two very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 480-990-3300. That's 480-990-3300.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Every day, savings, energy efficiency, rebates. Every day at APS, you have ways to save energy and money. We know how important it is to keep your bill as low as possible. That's why we offer programs to help you manage your energy use. Schedule a home energy checkup for savings recommendations tailored to your home. Find rebates on smart thermostats. Compare your rate plan options and switch to the plan that would have saved you the most money. Find ways to save at aps.com/brighter.
Is your home having plumbing issues? Call Howard Air and Plumbing today. For a limited time, get your $98 plumbing diagnostic fee waived when you mention Gatos. Plus, get 10% off any major plumbing repair when you schedule today. That's right. Waive your $98 plumbing diagnostic, plus get 10% off any major plumbing repair. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air and Plumbing. Call 602-953-2766 or schedule your appointment online at howardair.com. Some restrictions apply.
A KTAR News and ABC15 special. Highlight on housing.
My name is LaDona Harvey. I am with Arizona's Morning News, and I'm sitting here alongside Nick Ciletti from ABC15 with a couple of goals in mind, finding out the best way to move forward with housing in the Valley. Yeah. And Nick, one of the things that we're talking about is the Starter Homes Act, which we've been talking about in the legislature for a while.
Yeah, right. And obviously it's been making news, right? Because we've been seeing it move, getting approved and whatnot. Obviously not law yet, but it's, possibly moving in a direction where it could be. Obviously, a lot of heated opinions on both sides. We're not going to get heated today, but we know that there's people really for this that think that this is great and this is the solution. There are folks who worry, well, wait a minute, it might take away some of a city's autonomy. So we're going to dive a little deeper into that.
Very deep, and we're going to do this in a no fisticuffs zone, gentlemen, because we understand that there's a lot of screaming that goes on between you. Jackson Mull, I'm making that up, by the way. Jackson Mull, who is the CEO of the Home Builders Association of Central Arizona, a supporter of the Starter Homes Act, and Buckeye Mayor Eric Osborne, who is also with the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and you don't like it so much. So let's start with Jackson. Why are you for the Starter Homes Act, and what do you think that it brings to the table that we don't have right now?
So when I think about the Arizona Starter Homes Act, I think starting with what are the different ways in which the government intervenes in the housing market or in home construction that forces builders to build and sell homes at prices higher than they would otherwise do so. In the absence of government intervention, what would those price points be? And the Starter Homes Act hits on almost all of them. And so it hits on things like minimum lot sizes, setbacks, design and architectural requirements, what types of amenities can the government force you to put in as a new subdivision developer. And it checks off each and every one of those boxes. And so that's one of the reasons that we have supported it.
Now, Buckeye Mayor Eric Osborne, let's get your overview of what you're seeing that's going through the legislature right now with the Starter Homes Act, because the League of Cities and Towns here in Arizona is not for this.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak. And I was fully expecting that we were going to yell and scream and hit.
I was sorry about the hair pulling, but you don't have any hair.
You're
and
right.
So that's
yes.
a problem.
For those on the radio, yes, that's true. So we think that a bill that addresses affordable housing and starter homes should actually apply to starter homes. And there's nothing in the bill that forces these homes to be sold to new buyers, first-time buyers, or to folks that are looking to buy that first home. It also takes away the public's ability to speak into housing in their community or land plans in their community. So we're required every 10 years to do a general plan where we go through a painstaking process to determine what we want to see in our cities. Every city does this in Arizona. And out of that plan, we know where residential's going. We know the types of residential that are going there. We know where industrial's going, where the commercial is going. And a bill like this takes the ability for, and that also goes, that general plan also goes out to the residents, and they vote on it and approve it. This bill takes that ability for residents to have a say in what they want built in their community completely away. And so if I'm moving in with an expectation that adjacent to my house, I'm going to have single-family homes of a certain variety, and this bill allows, there's variations of this, but a much, much higher density, in some cases apartment-level density, adjacent to single-family homes or where we thought single-family homes were going. It's a complete change in what I thought I was getting at the city. And then further, it makes it very difficult to plan. So that general plan informs our capital improvement projects. It informs transportation projects. It informs how many fire departments or police stations or just infrastructure in general are going in a specific area, because we know generally what's being built. This takes that completely away from cities and residents moving forward.
I know this is going to come as a big shock to everybody, but I disagree with the mayor in a couple of these points. Respectfully, of course, because we love the mayor in the city of Buckeye. But no, I hear this a lot, that one of the criticisms of the bill is that there's nothing in this that directly ties to affordability. And we, of course, disagree with that for a couple of different reasons. Number one is you heard from two economists earlier today that talked about how if you build more housing at all types, that helps everybody across the board, including those that are looking for starter homes. And I think about it this way. If I'm a first move-up buyer, for instance, I can't move up any higher than what my budget allows me to go. And so if there's not homes that are available at that price point, now I'm forced to compete with somebody for a starter home. So there's the indirect benefit of creating less competition for those starter homes, but then there's the direct benefit, as we talked about earlier, of getting rid of some of these interventions in government, from government, that increase the cost of housing. And with the Starter Home Act, there's a real simple way to think about it, which is this allows builders to build a small, modest home on a small lot. These are the types of products that are very, very difficult throughout all of the Phoenix market to build. There are some places where you can build it, but by and large, the government just doesn't allow it. The mayor talked about kind of the general plan and how we think about housing. And it's important to understand the distinction between the general plan and kind of zoning. So zoning does two things. At the outset, it dictates land use. It says what's going to be residential, what's going to be commercial, what's going to be industrial. This bill doesn't do anything to change the city's ability to decide where housing is going to go, where industrial is going to go, and so forth. But what it does do is the second part of zoning then details with what we call development standards. So this is how big are the lots? What are the setbacks in the front and the side yard? How high are the buildings, and so forth. And here is where we do some intervention into how cities regulate those in order to give builders the ability to deliver that price point for the home buyer so that they can buy that first home and start to build equity and experience that portion of the American dream. So we think about it a little bit differently, that it's not taking away the city's ability to dictate where housing goes. It's just once we've decided that that's where housing is going to go, now we're going to say the city's limited in its ability to dictate some of those development standards.
Jackson Mole, a CEO of the Home Builders Association of Central Arizona, a supporter of the Starter Homes Act. And I know, Buckeye Mayor Eric Osborne, that you have an answer to that. And we have to go to a break, but I'm going to let you do that right when we come back, because this is the kind of back and forth that I think people need to understand what could be happening in their neighborhoods, how we could be building affordable housing. Is there a happy middle in here somewhere,
I was just
too?
going to say,
I
some
want you
middle
guys
ground.
to think about
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Ciletti is with me. He is with ABC15, and this is our highlight on housing right here on KTAR.
Hey, it's Wolf from Presidential Pools, a long-term partner of ours over a decade, and they built my pool. They're also now an official partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Starting this season, Presidential Pools, Arizona's largest pool builder by volume, is teaming up with the Diamondbacks to bring you even more excitement on and off the field. Go with my pool builder and the Diamondbacks' new partner and see how they can help you at presidentialpools.com.
Hey, it's Jim Sharp here along with Stuart Willis, the president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax. And Stuart, when people go in to meet a financial advisor, it can be overwhelming. They have no idea where to start. What are some questions they can ask?
Well, we actually have a full comprehensive list of 22 questions you should be asking. First, I think it's very important that you ask yourself, do I even like this person? Because you need to have a relationship with this person. Right. It needs to be long-term. Mm-hmm. The first question you should ask them is, are you a fiduciary? Because if the answer is no, it's time to get up and walk out. Number two, how do you get paid? Do they receive commissions or are they fee only? Very important. And then number three, do you have CPAs on staff to assist you with tax planning? Because remember, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep.
See the full list of questions and find out about your free portfolio review at assetpreservationwealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Arizona's news station, KTAR News. on 92.3 FM, KTAR.com, and streaming live on the KTAR News app.
What if you could use your home equity to pay off your debt without monthly payments so you could focus on reaching your other financial goals? With a home equity investment from HomeTap, you can. Get access to your home equity in cash, get closer to financial freedom, and get more out of life. Learn more and see if you pre-qualify for an investment at HomeTap.com. Subject to eligibility, terms and conditions apply. Get access to your home equity in cash. Visit HomeTap.com to apply in minutes. That's HomeTap.com.
It's Gatos, and I'm here with Doug from the Arizona Painting Company. And Doug, sometimes a fresh coat of paint is more than just a color change. It's a fresh start.
And that's exactly what happened this year with the 2025 Paint It Forward project.
Yeah, this year's recipient was Cindy Padilla, a retired Sunday school teacher and widow. A terrible accident left her on disability, and her home desperately needed some TLC.
The city kept calling her about the condition of her paint, but Cindy wasn't able to take care of it herself. That's where our crew stepped in.
Oh, you guys were awesome. 30 volunteers showing up. They were giving their time and talent to completely transform Cindy's home.
Our team got right to work. Pressure washing, scraping, priming, replacing rotted wood, and caulking. We even trimmed back bushes so the job could be done right.
Big shout out to Sherwin Williams for donating all the paint and supplies. Cindy was overwhelmed with gratitude.
This is what community is all about. Helping out, lifting people up, and making a real difference.
Paint It Forward 2025. Another home, another heart touched.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women, causing 1 in 3 deaths each year. That's 1/3 of our mothers, sisters, and friends. Losing even one woman to cardiovascular disease is too many. Encourage the women you love to learn more about their risk factors. And join us for the Phoenix Go Red for Women Luncheon on May 8th at the Westin Kierland Resort and Spa. Visit heart.org/PHXGoRed to learn more.
KTAR News now.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30. I'm Heidi Hommel. Today, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg says he may hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt of court over violating orders to stop deportation flights to El Salvador. KTAR legal analyst Barry Markson explains.
In the use of the Aliens Enemy Act of 1798 that the Trump administration is using to deport illegal immigrants that it says are part of Venezuelan gangs and other criminal enterprises.
The district judge says it may refer the contempt for prosecution, urging the Trump administration to comply with its order and stop the deportations that are occurring without due process. KTAR Eyes on the Economy. Some in Arizona fear regulations that require Canadian visitors to register and get fingerprinted will harm Arizona's economy. More than 280,000 Canadians visited Arizona in 2023, according to the state's Office of Tourism. The data firm OAG reports scheduled flight bookings from Canada to the U.S. are down 70% compared to this time last year. And now for a check on traffic, let's head to the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. Look out for an injury accident near 91st Avenue and Indian School Road. We've got a wreck at 12th Street and Highland Avenue, and an accident has partially blocked the eastbound lanes of the I-10 near 48th Street. This traffic report is brought to you by Red Mountain Weight Loss. For a limited time, save $200 on GLP-1 medications. No shortages, no waiting, just real doctor-supervised results. $200 off compounded GLP-1s only at redmountainweightloss.com. That's redmountainweightloss.com. Today's high, 90 degrees. It's currently 88 degrees in Phoenix. Weather brought to you by Howard Air and Plumbing. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air and Plumbing. I'm Heidi Hommel on Arizona's news station, KTAR News.
KTAR News 92.3, the KTAR News app, and KTAR.com. A KTAR News and ABC15 special. Highlight on housing.
We have been talking to people from around the Valley, politicians to economists, about housing in the Valley and how we can make it better, basically for everyone. This hour, we've been talking to CEO of the Home Builders Association of Central Arizona, a Starting Homes Act supporter, Jackson Mall, and Buckeye Mayor Eric Osborne, who is also with the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, which is not in support of the Starter Homes Act.
Yeah, we've been having just a friendly conversation, I'll call. I think it's been pretty friendly. Obviously, as LaDona set up, you're on opposing sides of this, but Mayor Osborne, I wanted to start with you because I know that you wanted to respond to what Jackson had said before we went to break. So hearing that in his argument, what is your response?
Yeah, I think some of the principles that he's referring to, zoning, are found in those general plan documents also. And I think I'd also just like to say that from a Buckeye perspective, we were 6,500 in population in the year 2000. We've grown to, today we're 120,000 in population. Wow. We will be 300,000 in population by 2040, so almost triple in 15 years. And we have not made home building more difficult, and I think we can agree that it's gotten more efficient in the city of Buckeye through processes and great conversations with the home builders on how we can be better partners and speed to market from a residential perspective. We're not slowing down. We've made it easier, yet housing prices have gone significantly really out of touch, and I agree with that. We have to get home prices down and create starter homes for people, but you can't do it at the expense of the residents that exist in the city right now. So you cannot take away the ability of the residents or planning or from a city perspective, the ability to have some say in what's being built. And you talked about some of those amenities that are required in a city. It's generally not because we're just trying to drive the cost of housing up. It's because we're trying to create that environment that we all want to live in, which is not sitting in traffic all the time, having roadways that are built big enough, having water and sewer infrastructure that is built big enough for the densities that we're talking about, having amenities in the form of small parks or open space, so that it's not barracks that we're building in our community, but it's a thoughtful design moving forward. And we've got great examples of that. Lennar Homes is building we are very, very excited about this product, 3,500 square foot lot with a 900 square foot house on it. And that they're shooting for a price point of sub 300, so somewhere in the 285 range. That's starter home, and that's something that we've been able to do working with Lennar Homes and in creating a product that works for them and fits into what we want to see in our community.
So that's Buckeye, though. Are other cities quite as amenable to sitting down at the table and chatting about making a starter home?
It's funny that you bring that up, because I was joking with the mayor in the parking lot that I kind of wish that I had somebody that wasn't quite as helpful for us on housing as Mayor Osborne is.
To debate against.
Yeah. It makes it easier to debate. But no, he's exactly right, that we have had a lot of success working with the city of Buckeye. And, if we could get some of Mayor Osborne's mentality to translate into some of the other cities and towns, perhaps we might have some additional success. I also, just as a quick aside, I wanted to say thanks to the mayor for mentioning one of our members, Lennar, and that project that they're working on. But that, I think, illustrates the point that we brought up earlier, which is if we were able to do some of the types of products that the Starter Homes Act would allow us to do, that it would actually end up happening. And this example in Buckeye is a good illustration of that.
I would just ask you, Mr. Mayor, is there anything that you see in this that you maybe could get on board with? Is there a way to maybe meet in the middle or compromise?
Yeah, and I think the League of Cities have provided, I don't know if that gives you shivers if I mention the League of Cities, have provided some options for that. It really comes down to making sure that starter homes are actually going to starter home buyers, and it's not investors that are coming in and buying the homes and flipping. It's not Wall Street that's benefiting from this, but it's true starter homes that are going to starter home purchasers, first-time home buyers. And then it's I think for us it's a non-negotiable. You cannot take away the city or the residents' ability, the citizens' ability to have some say in what's being built in their community, and that is just a very, very important facet of what we have going on here. But there are other components of this. The lot sizes. I think there was initially a 1,500 square foot lot size, which is garden style apartment level density, 24 to the acre, wherever you want to build it, and that just simply doesn't work. But if you can get to some real densities.
I think it's 3,000 now. Is that what it's
Yeah.
been pushed back to?
Yeah,
from
it's at
1,500 to
3,000.
3,000? Yep. Okay.
So there's some concessions being made, and there may be an opportunity. It'd be great to get to a finish line on this, so we're not having to talk about this every single year, and we're making some benefit available to those first-time home buyers and making sure that the cities and the residents are protected, but we're pushing forward with some rational stuff that makes it easier to buy homes.
You know, Jackson, I wanted to ask a couple of questions because, you know, part of your picture as from a developer, from a home builder perspective is regulatory costs, the costs that go into building a home. We know that we saw this super bubble in 2019 to 2021 area. What about labor costs? Where have those taken you, and how much does that factor into building affordable housing and being able to get it built?
Sure. Yeah. So when I think about kind of what are all the general inputs that go into how much a home ends up selling for, you have labor costs, you have materials costs, you have land costs, you have the regulatory costs that you talked about, and then you have what I'll call lending costs, or things that are around the interest rate on this. One of the things that's interesting is, in the 13 years or so that I've been at the Home Builders Association, labor's always been a topic that we've talked about. We know that we have an aging workforce. We know that fewer people are entering the trades. Recently, however, that has not been a topic of conversation amongst our members. And part of the reason for that is because other industries' construction activities have slowed down, which has then brought labor over for new home builders. And so our construction times right now are about as good as they've been. I mean, we have production home builders that are building homes in 4 or 5 months or so, which is really good for us. The other issues, though, have been a challenge for us. So on the land side, for instance, we had a moratorium that was enacted by the state on issuing new certificates of assured water supply in places like the city of Buckeye. That had the immediate effect of shrinking the available supply of land, which then caused prices to go up. Other regulatory costs that we run into are things like increases in impact fees, architectural requirements from cities. On the lending side of things, there's not a lot we can do about interest rates, but the one thing that builders do is they spend a considerable amount of time and a lot of resources buying down those rates so that they can ensure that homes are affordable for people when it comes to the monthly mortgage payments. So I'll give you a quick example. Where current interest rates are, to buy that down to about 4.99, which is where most builders are, that's 13%. It costs 13% of whatever the borrowed amount is. So on a $500,000 loan, for instance, that's $65,000 that the builders are spending to draw down that interest rate. Then they'll oftentimes also put in closing costs, which is another $10,000, which means for the typical home in Phoenix, we're spending about $75,000 to make sure that that portion can afford the mortgage payment on that home. And so when the mayor talks about how we want to make sure that these starter homes are actually for owner-occupiers and people are actually living in these homes, we're the ones, the industry, that's putting our money behind that to ensure that that happens. And so we certainly share that goal with the mayor.
How sustainable is that?
We'll find out how sustainable it is, and that's why we've pushed so hard for other forms of regulatory relief, because it's hard for us to deal with material costs. It's hard for us to deal with land costs. Those are what they are. But you take, for instance, a given piece of land. If you were going to turn that into a subdivision, we know a certain percentage of that's going to go for roads. We know it's going to go for sidewalks. We know it's going to go for retention spaces. If we could spread those costs amongst more home buyers, that brings the price down for everybody. And so that's how we've tried to address that through the regulatory side.
I was just going to ask, with our couple minutes remaining, we've talked about Buckeye. It's often been called one of the fastest growing cities. Some estimates even have it as the fastest growing city, Mr. Mayor. How do you balance that, though, of needing, of course, new homes for this population that's booming, but then doing it in a way that's methodical, responsible, and kind of checking all the boxes? Because I'm sure threading that needle is not easy.
Yeah. There are a lot of challenges with being one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. And it's not just the city of Buckeye. There are several cities throughout Metro Phoenix that tend to be that. I think there's 700,000 people that move here each year. So a massive number of people coming into the Metro Phoenix area. And that has all of us growing. So it's difficult to keep up with infrastructure. It's difficult to keep up with fire stations or police stations. It's difficult to keep up with the amenities that residents moving in are looking for, whether that's open space, parks, ball fields for t-ball or whatever it may be that's close to home. Those date night restaurants, the retail that we're looking for. It's a challenge to do that. I think we're meeting that challenge, but again, going back to making sure that there's some voice in how we're planning this community out. We know that we're going to be the fastest growing. I think the estimates are 250,000 entitled lots on the west side of the White Tank Mountains, north of I-10. It is a staggering amount of development that we have ahead of us, but we have to have thoughtful plans in place, a general plan, and some ability to decide where that density goes throughout our community moving forward.
Jackson Mole, the CEO of the Home Builders Association of Central Arizona, and Eric Orsborn, the mayor of Buckeye, seeing two sides of the same coin, trying to get people into homes, trying to keep neighborhoods the way that people want when they live there, and do it in a way that's very thoughtful. And, you know, hopefully we can kind of work this through with the Starter Homes Act that makes both of you happy, because you both seem like nice people.
Jackson has a t-ball game to get to. He's coaching his son's Little League game.
Right?
So it doesn't get any nicer than that, right?
You know what? As we continue on with our KTAR and ABC15 special highlight on housing, we're going to hear what the governor had to say to Bruce and Gatos yesterday. They had an opportunity to sit down, and she talked a little bit about housing. I'm sorry, I said Governor Kate Gallego. It's Governor Katie Hobbs. Hello. We talked to the mayor a little bit earlier. And we get kind of an idea of where she is thinking and what she says she may or may not do as far as that Starter Homes Act goes.
Yeah, we'll have
That's
her in
coming
just
up.
a second.
Yeah, right here on KTAR.
Has your roof been inspected lately? Dave Ramsey here to tell you about Trevec Roofing. These are the same folks I've been telling you about for years for home remodel, and now they're going back to their roots with an entire department dedicated to roofing. Don't be the person with a bucket in your living room because you waited until after the big storm to have your roof looked at. If your tile roof is 15 years old, you need to have a professional inspection of the underlayment before it leaks. Foam roofs need to be inspected every 5 years at a minimum to ensure the sun hasn't eaten away the coating. Call our friends at Trevec Roofing today at 480-367-1171 to schedule your roof inspection. That's 480-367-1171 or Trevec.com. Don't get caught in the rain by quick fixes. Let Trevec Roofing be your roofing expert and get the job done right the first time. Hashtag Red Trucks.
Don't risk an AC breakdown this summer. Call Rias, your local air conditioning expert. From maintenance to same-day repair, Rias keeps your home cool. Make your AC happy with a Rias Refresh, our advanced AC tune-up, and get your AC running at peak performance. Over $1,000 in value, now just $89.99. Go to reis.com/happy.
Rias, call Rias. You'll be happy to see us. R-E-I-S.
You know the only thing worse than the big heat? Yes, that big ego you like to carry around, Paul. That's bad. But what's worse is when you're not ready for the big heat. And that used to be us at Casa Calvisi before we called America Roofing. One of the best moves you've ever made, my friend. And now we're doing the same thing. America Roofing just came over to my house and repaired a section of my roof. And here's how it gets better. For Gatos and everyone, save 12% with tax and tariff relief. Yep. When America Roofing says we've got you covered, they're putting our savings where their mouth is. 12% off right now while it lasts. Tax and tariff relief from Arizona's #1 roofing company. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. Locally owned. More than a quarter century as Arizona's roofing experts, and now 12% savings when you mention Calvisi. Or you mention Gatos. Or Arizona Sports. Or KTAR. Get that free inspection. 602-960-ROOF. Or AmericaRoofingCo.com. America Roofing. They've got you covered.
ROC number 186438442.
Home buying season is right around the corner, and now is the perfect time to make your move. Whether you're buying your first home or upgrading your home, you deserve to work with a mortgage company who can close on time and put you first. We are seeing a shift in the market, and now is your opportunity. Don't stress over complicated paperwork or hidden fees. When you work with the Lund team, it's all about making the process simple and straightforward. This home buying season, work with a team that's always here for you. Go to lundmortgage.com. That's lundmortgage.com.
A KTAR News and ABC15 special. Highlight on housing.
Hi there, we are back. It's myself and Nick Ciletti. I'm LaDona Harvey, by the way. If you haven't heard this voice in the afternoon, I do Arizona's morning news. Nick Ciletti from ABC15, as we've done this highlight on housing that has been actually quite amazing.
It's been very eye-opening, right? And I love the way that together we've collated it and gotten all these stakeholders and different vantage points in here, because I think that's important, because it really is going to take everybody to get on board to find the solutions, to find the common ground. So that's what we wanted to try to do, is incorporate a diverse group of voices.
And if you were sitting here listening, I realize 2 hours is a lot of time to spend listening on the radio. But, you can go back and you can listen to it on the KTAR News app, get all of the information. But I think the main takeaway that I got is you have a lot of people who are really invested in fixing what has become a problem in the Valley, in the entire state of Arizona, but really we're feeling it in the Valley because of that big bubble that we saw in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, but you have a good point, LaDona, about there is hope, right? Like you said, there's
Sure.
people trying to find new solutions, point out current ones, try to see, again, what common ground we can find. So yeah, we don't want you to be hopeless. The point of this is to help you and be in it together, because we're all in this together. We live in this community. We get it. We understand.
We want it to stay as cool as it is, but we also want to know that our neighbors, the people who are living in the apartments down the block, have an opportunity to buy a house.
Sure.
That, one of these days, maybe I can do that here. Now, the governor did talk with Bruce and Gatos. We were not able to get the governor in studio. She's very busy. And the Starter Homes Act was one of the topics of conversation. They wanted to know where it was, kind of in the process.
Like much complicated legislation, it continues to be worked on. And I think it's one of those things that we'll see towards the end of the session, which I hope is very soon. We need the Republicans to bring a budget forward. So I think, and we talked about this bill last time I was here. For me, the primary concern is making sure that Arizonans are able to own these homes, and that's why we put forward an alternative proposal. That proposal is being considered as part of the discussions, and they're ongoing, and we continue to be actively engaged in.
Right. So we didn't get a firm answer from Governor Hobbs there. However, she did bring up a point that Mayor Osborne from Buckeye brought up in our last segment, which is, for the folks who have been against this, one of their chief concerns is that, well, wait a minute. How do we know that these starter homes would actually go to Arizonans and people who really would need that versus an investor, somebody who wants to flip something, or someone who wants to have Airbnbs or things like that? I
think we all want to see our neighbors make a profit off their house. We don't necessarily want to see Wall Street involved in our real estate lives.
Sure.
Because Wall Street, I mean, hey, look at the markets recently. They mess everything up, and we don't need that.
Yeah, so there are lots of solutions. They can't all be done by the state. And certainly, we didn't get to this place overnight. We're not going to solve it overnight. I talked about in my State of the State, taking aggressive action around short-term rentals and ensuring, again, that those aren't eating up all of the affordable housing supply in communities. We didn't see a bill on that make it through this year, but something that communities across the state want to continue to work on. We've invested a lot. We have invested enough for 3,000 shovel-ready homes to be affordable housing to be built. Our mortgage assistance program, the Arizona's Home Program, has helped 500 families afford new homes. So there's a lot of solutions. The package of bills I signed last year that helps to cut red tape and increase housing supply. Again, the starter home bill is another tool in that toolbox.
All right. Governor Katie Hobbs talking to Bruce and Gatos yesterday in a KTAR exclusive, giving us a few answers.
Right. And, I think there's still a lot that needs to be worked out. And obviously we've seen this. This is at least the second iteration of the Starter Homes Act, right? Because we saw it before. It didn't get approved. To that point, I do still think there's probably some things that need to be worked out really on both sides.
They are. And you know, what we're learning, I think, is that while we all understand that this is a really complicated issue, that there's more than one thing that goes into it. You look at regulations, the cost of building, and, you know, the fact that maybe developers don't have quite as much freedom as they could in getting a starter home to get somebody in there. But we're also seeing that, you know, across the board, from people who make a lot of money in the Valley to people who don't make much money, the pressure is on all of those populations. And we have to alleviate that. If you build a home that somebody wants to buy, they will come and buy it.
Absolutely, yeah. But you bring up a good point, LaDona, about how, and our experts are saying this too, it's impacting all segments of the population, right?
In a very big and impactful way, for lack of a better term. Everybody's feeling the pinch, and there are a lot of people who are really looking for answers. One of those was, well, okay, it's called the Axon Bill.
That's what it's been dubbed, right? Yeah.
By the people who are not for it. Axon is not directly named in this bill. Bruce and Gatos asked the governor flat out if she was going to sign what opponents are calling the Axon Bill.
I'm still looking at the bill, but what I can tell you that I'm focused on is building and bringing companies to Arizona that are going to create jobs. And Axon bought state land. They were committed to building their headquarters here. And then they wanted to do more. They want to build housing for their workforce on the site, which is where kind of all of the controversy started.
The apartments argument. Yeah.
I think it's great that an employer wants to provide a solution to an issue we're facing in Arizona.
So, and just to give you guys a little bit of background in case you're not familiar with this. So this is the mega development, I'll call it, off the Loop 101 in Hayden, an approximate area that Axon would build for their headquarters. But then the new addition to it would be that it would include housing for their employees, right?
Right, and not just a small number of a lot of housing.
Right.
But some of the neighbors said they didn't want it. Now, did you hear an answer from the governor there? I mean, I thought she was very politic about it.
Sure. And I know that they... Do you have another bite you're going to play?
Yeah,
okay, I was going to say.
They pushed her a little bit.
All righty.
You're signing that bill, right? I got a feeling you're signing that bill.
Still looking at it.
Still looking at it, okay.
All right. It's a hard maybe, is what I got out of that.
Big company.
And that's probably what we're going to get out of the governor on that so far. She says basically it just arrived on her desk and she does need to read it.
She did say, I want them to stay in Arizona, right?
Yes, she did.
You know, not that we want to read the tea leaves too much, but she did say she would like them to stay here. Look, you know, and there's people in Scottsdale who would say, well, wait a minute. And this is sort of some of the issues we touched on in our last segment.
Right.
There's this idea of cities should have autonomy and should be able to decide what goes in, what doesn't go in. You know, that's what their perspective is. But then there's the other perspective of, well, wait a minute. If they're coming in with their solutions, right, of
and
they're
that
having
is
housing,
a solution.
and, right, then why not? That's what the other side would say to this.
And, you know, here you go. They're both right. That's that is the problem in dealing with an issue that's this complicated. Both sides many times have many great points. What we've learned, though, I think, is that with enough people, enough of a brain trust on this, we can come up with and are actively working on in Arizona solutions that will at least not make everybody mad. You'll probably be mad over some of them, but not all of them. And some of this is going to alleviate the crunch on people who should be able to buy a home and live comfortably here or rent and not have to spend most of their salary on it.
Right, yeah, we don't want that. We want people to continue to love living here, but to be able to thrive living here too and get a piece of the pie.
And that's what the Valley's always been about, is people come here and they just thrive. It's what makes it such a wonderful place to live. Yeah. This is KTAR and ABC15's Highlight on Housing. I hope that you enjoyed and took things away from it that are good for you, that give you an idea of where to start, or maybe even gave you the idea that maybe you ought to put a down payment on something soon.
A little motivation. LaDona, Harvey, it's been amazing. Thank you for being
Nick
such a good partner in this.
It's been fabulous. I think that we should probably go have lunch.
Likewise.
Yeah. This is KTAR, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Hey, it's Mike Broomhead. If you missed the Smith & Wesson